All right, so this is familiar to those who are training here already, and you could probably recognize it without training kind of what's going on here. The three battles. So in Kung Fu, we have a form called Samchin, which is the three battles. So just to make that clear, for those you guys know that, of course, the first battle is, of course, the biggest adversary you'll ever face, the most challenging one, the most dangerous one is, of course, with yourself. And that's a battle that's different for everybody. Whenever I have trial lessons here, I always make it very clear, as I kind of pointed out in the beginning, that if you have any traumas from the past, I don't want to include that, because that's something, you know, we're not psychologists or psychiatrists. If someone needs to deal with a past, that's something you should really do on your own, separate. But besides that, so what we're really talking about is now having reached the maturity that you're fully responsible for your own decisions. Right? Like I said, but this doesn't count for children when the brains aren't fully formed, and it also doesn't count, in a sense, if you have traumas that haven't been resolved. To give you a hint, by the way, about now we're going to talk about that, unresolved traumas. Supposedly, if you have a memory older than 18 months that is still causing major discomfort, you have a trauma that hasn't been resolved. That's just something to think about. So not now, maybe. Well, if it's resolved, it's no longer trauma.
Exactly. First of all, yeah, but
It still happened. If you had an accident, you had trauma to your body, and it healed, it's been resolved in that sense. See if that resonates. Compare it to a physical trauma. Like I just said, so you literally call it trauma. When you have, like they asked me with my injury here, did you have a trauma? You have physical traumas. So when you have a physical trauma, at that moment, something happens that could theoretically affect you the rest of your life, but it's a physical thing healing. Now, if what you mean is you can't change your past, yes. But going back to the last part of the three things are called suffering, and that's what you basically do in therapy as well, you can give different meanings to the past. So indeed, you can never change the past. You can't change the traumatic experience. It was traumatic because you were a child and therefore not able to fully deal with it yet because the brain's not fully formed, you're not fully matured. So yes, you can't change that. But you definitely can. I can't make the big claim, because everyone has a different battle, 100%, but 98% of traumas, even ones that lead to severe depression, as long as it's not purely neurological, something wrong, or with your hormones and things like that, can be resolved in the sense, resolved means you've come to a better understanding.
yeah.
You resolve a conflict, you resolve an issue, you can resolve traumas to a large degree. Once again, I'm not going to be so arrogant to say that all traumas, I think there are very extreme things that happen to people and that can happen at any age. So it's also not to say, oh, well, you could have resolved. It's not to belittle any trauma at all. But theoretically, if you meet the right people, are in the right contact, get the correct help. So there's a lot of ifs, for sure. As a child, you don't have that choice. Really, not to a degree. Your choices are very limited because you just literally, your brains aren't fully formed. You're not fully mature. First 7 years of your life, your brain waves are at the lowest. They're at delta, and then you have theta, and then alpha, beta, gamma. So delta is, you're just a sponge. You really is, that's your programming. You don't have much that holds it back the first 4 years. Yes, they can say this or that, but if you tell a child the first 4 years of your life, you're a bad boy, you're stupid, you're a bad boy. Yeah, if you tell that to a 30-year-old, it's going to have a different effect. If they had a good, strong foundation of a father, mother said, you know, you make mistakes, that's fine, you're a good boy, you know, you understand, right? So you lay the foundation, and actually the majority of personalities, characters are based on those first 7 years, not 4, by the way, 7 years of your life. So then you go into theta, which is hypnosis, hypnotic state. It's what we do just before we fall asleep, and just as we wake up, your brain waves are there, and that's a hypnotic. If you go into meditation, so you can be easily programmed, you could say. That's why they have a lot of therapy now, which is called hypnotherapy. It's not that you turn into a chicken or anything like that. You're actually more aware than ever. It's just that you bypass that part that's analytical too much. So you kind of let it in, and then you can actually go back. There's a form called rapid transformational therapy that's become kind of like fashionable, but it's actually quite effective. So in a few sessions, you go back to childhood. It's also called inner child work. You might have heard of that. Similar, we actually, as an adult, go back to the child and tell them, hey, this is not right, what is happening to you. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You weren't wrong, because a child really in that sense is never wrong at such a degree. So the things that cause traumas, I'm not talking about children can't manipulate or make mistakes or do bad things, but in essence, their value of who they are can never be bad. It can be learning, right? I mean, but they have to have unconditional love and support and feel safe. That's important. Doesn't mean there's not rules or regulations or things that, you understand though. What you did has that effect, and perhaps you shouldn't do that. Not you are a bad person. That's something very, very different. So there are children who have mental, emotional, physical abuse. And there's easy ways to test it. There's the absent parent test, where you put a child of 2 in a room, parent comes in, you see how the child reacts. If he goes away crying, frightening, something's going on. Okay, so resolved, so traumas. So as an adult, let me get back on the track there. So as an adult, at one point, it's important indeed to take on the full responsibility of your own choices, and therefore also the meaning we give to events. Choose your battles wisely, right? Do you have to get in a fight with everyone who cuts you off in traffic? We talked about in class sometimes. Well, yeah, that's a choice. You have so much energy, so much chi. Sometimes some people have to perhaps be put in their place so they don't do it again, right? I mean, if you see someone kick a dog, maybe you want to do something, because someone like that should stop kicking dogs. Okay, so the inner world is the first battle, is the self-mastery. The outer world is the meaning you give and the choices you make and with other people, situations, events, circumstances. That's really the second battle. So if something's not clear, feel free to ask. And then the third battle, I have this young kid training us, and he's now 13. He's been spending the last 5 years, because I don't tell anyone. I don't tell the children until they get their black belt what the third battle is. So don't spread this to the children yet, because he's been guessing. He comes in, he helps me out on Saturday. He's a great kid. He has his blue shirt. He's now with the juniors. And he's always comes, is the third battle maybe? He's always coming with all these different things. And the interesting thing, the third battle, of course, has to do with the first and second battle. So, which we'll go into. I got out of my dark night of the soul. I put together thing. I can't go into the full details and full detail. Doesn't mean that you're not going to hopefully leave this afternoon with some tools that you can practically implement. And we're going to do those now. So that's what I'm saying. Otherwise it's just, which nothing wrong with that. It's nice to have an informative, some knowledge, but like I said, I want this to be experience. I want you guys to take some things home that theoretically you can immediately implement. Like Bruce Lee said, absorb what you need, discard what you don't need. These tools work great for me. I've spent, I can't say thousands, but many, many people I've also coached using these tools, and it had a great effect. But it's always the responsibility of the person wielding the tool, right? So no one can ever wield the tool for you. That's the first battle, right? The interaction. But these are some of the things that came out during my previous training, even before I started Kung Fu, with the Tai Chi, with the Wing Chun, and like I said, also diving. That's why you can see things here from modern, cutting-edge Western science, psychology, neuroscience, Buddhism, Taoism, so many other principles. So it's not really what I learned here, but it was like, oh yeah, 3 battles. I of course knew, everyone knows that you have to work on yourself kind of thing. So it was like some basic things I knew. So the center line principle, very important one. And some of the most simplest things can have the biggest impact, if we realize them. It's kind of like, if you keep it really simple, like you're on a journey, you're on a raft, and it's wobbling the whole time. Just giving simple, just think of this one right now. I don't script what I talk about, maybe you guys are aware of that. That's why I just go on for like hours. So your raft is wobbling. At that moment, a simple regaining the balance of not wobbling anymore and your raft is the most important thing you could do. So simple. And then maybe the journey becomes a lot easier, right? Because you don't fall off your raft and get eaten by a shark. So that's what I'm saying. Some of these things might seem like, oh yeah, and some will resonate. I hope actually you know some of these things, and it's more like remembrance. I think many of them will resonate, because like I said, it's not something I invented. I put it together. It's like when you cook pasta, you didn't invent the tomatoes and the pasta and the herbs and the garlic, and right? But it's your dish. All right. So what happens when you go into fear, stress, limiting beliefs, suffering, it causes chaos. And this can be interpreted purely from psychology as well as from Buddhism, right? You know this also from someone we both follow. So in Buddhism, they talk about a river that flows in between the banks of chaos and order. And now there's several aspects to that, and obviously we can't spend too much time on them, but this good idea. You're always balancing kind of in between that. And people by nature are sometimes more chaotic. We all know those. And people are sometimes more orderly. And the idea is that you don't really want to reside too much in the extremes, which is often with extremes, right? So if you see it as a river, so it's not a form of judgment. By nature, and it could also be part of society, so the first two, we have our temperaments. There's a lot of theory on that. Some people are just more agreeable, some people aren't. They're more chaotic. Usually more creative people tend to be a little bit more on the chaotic side because it's open. It's like, let's do this, let's do that. And then, like I said, the bookkeeper tends to be a little bit more on the orderly side. But you want that balance. If you're in a relationship and it's all chaotic, you don't know what to expect, when you come home. That's not a place you want to be in all the time. It can be fun sometimes and a little bit, so you want some of that, but it's not like, I don't know where she is, kind of thing, or he, right? So you don't want to be chaotic when you're in a conversation. You don't want to I don't know what they were talking about, right? If it's completely chaotic. That can be fun, and you can express that maybe in art and things like that, and some modern jazz can be like that, right? So even there's something to it, right? There's some structure. Okay, but you also don't want to be completely predictable, right? Come home, take your coat off. Oh, your wife grabs it, the coffee there, and you're not even like it's like, or husband, wife, husband, doesn't matter who has that role.
Technically possible.
Technically possible.
Yeah, to be fully ordered.
Fully ordered. It can be extreme. You can be extreme. I would say OCD, for example, obsessive. But then it goes into something else also, because chaotic people can also go into OCD. And don't forget, we all have this. We're not robots. Everybody has an orderly side. Everybody has a chaotic side, and they can be nurtured and cultivated, for sure. So you can be orderly from yourself, go into an orderly job, be with an orderly partner. So you can feed these things and push more and more to order. And that's the thing, when you get too orderly, you're actually hiding, you could say, to a certain degree, the fear of chaos.
Yes.
Because orderly people are afraid of not having control and order. So they give themselves the illusion, it is an illusion, that you can control and orderly. And then something happens. So, for example, orderly people that are laid off from work, it hits them the most, devastated, because they can be hard worker, always doing the best, pens in the right boxes and ticking off the right boxes, everything. So that can hurt even more. Not that chaotic people won't be hurt with it as well, but if you're completely chaotic, all right, okay, well, kind of like that, which isn't good either. So that's why in Buddhism we talk about ideally, right? Ideally, there's an ideal. If you don't have an ideal, what are you striving for? So we know that from Kung Fu, right? The center line principle is keeping your balance. So from here, in Kung Fu, we also say, to define self-defense in one sentence is to break someone's balance. And in a sense, that's in life too. So the center line applies to life, right? You can't, and it doesn't mean you sometimes don't go on one leg, right? But ideally, the ideal is you're centered and your weight is distributed 50-50 and you're balanced. And then that's life too. A little chaotic, a little order, a little chaotic, and then in conversations too. Let's go out to the extremes, and we can do that in creative things as well, but in life and in conversations, go a little to the chaotic and let's come back to order. So people who are very much in chaotic side could use some more order in their life. People are overly orderly, maybe they should occasionally have 2 sugars instead of 1. Right? Oh, get out of your comfort zone. That's going to be a big thing already. Or today I'm going to go that way instead of that way and that way, and we'll get at the same place. And that's right. So there's ways that you can actively, when you're aware of that. And part of what I'm going to show, one of my tools, is the awareness. Everything, of course, starts with awareness. If you're not aware and actually think about these things as being relevant, obviously then you can get very stuck on one side. But definitely, chaotic people will be pulled to order at one point in their life. Get your act together. And overly orderly people will experience chaos in their life, for sure.
Do you understand my question?
I definitely understand the question. It's a great question again. First of all, yes, I agree with you. I think there's always exceptions to norms. But I do think there are exceptions, and they definitely exist. So I definitely agree with you that some people's dharma, calling, could be, I mean, there's examples of that in creative endeavors. Maybe Van Gogh, cutting off his ear, going crazy, I don't know. Would have been nice if he stayed around a little longer, but... so yeah, I do agree with that. I haven't really given that much thought, but I definitely agree that it's not a judgment. It's not like, indeed, for everybody, that's the ideal. But if you just think, your brains are also, you have the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, and the left is more orderly, and the right is more creative and open, and they keep each other in check as well, right? The left says, let's just stick with that and know that because it's also concerned with safety and well-being, and then the right, well, we can try. And the right is also checking on well-being, and so there's this interaction. So it's in nature already. In that, it's in the yin-yang. So you do, and you could say optimally, you're living healthier that way, because being very chaotic does get you into more trouble or problems. You will encounter more. Because, you might not even be able to find your keys in the morning. I'm just giving simple examples, but it can go a lot further than that. I'm giving a very simple example, but, it could also just be that your fantasy imagination is so all over the place, you can't have a family or whatever, can't hold a job for that long, you're against any form of authority and things like that. And yes, definitely. But I think that's very much, if you talk about the chaotic side, it's very much in the creative atmosphere, the sphere. Very much, the more creative, the less orderly for sure. And then you could even argue that some people that are locked up in asylums, crazy places, are maybe just gone completely into the chaos. And maybe it's actually, maybe what they're telling about these things they're seeing, stuff are actually there. Who knows, right? We can go into all that. So I agree with you. It's not like, no, that's the only way to live the right life. It's not a moral, righteous thing. If you're too chaotic, you better get back into balance. Is it disrupting your life in a negative way so that you can't reach your full potential? That would be a question you could add to it. Full potential according to you, not according to someone else. Have you really brought your unique talents, your abilities, perhaps your skills that have been developed, and your purpose, your dharma? Is this way of living helping you to reach your dharma? Is that maybe a good way of saying it? And that could be chaotic, yeah. And that could be over the order. But I think we will all agree in general that that's kind of exceptions. It's not 50-50, that 50% of the world should be chaotic. Then we have a problem. Then the traffic lights won't work. And it can't be only orderly. Then we get into dictatorship or fascism. Just look at Germany.
Yeah, that's
a little
right.
Overly orderly, yeah.
Isn't more control will eventually bring you chaos?
Bring you?
Chaos.
Yeah, eventually, yes. That's what happens. That's why all these dictatorships and overly ordered societies collapse at one point. Yes, exactly. But the other way around too. You can't live in chaos for too long. But they do. In fact, they actually say that dictatorship is better than chaos. Sounds a little tricky, but if you're living in a society where you don't know, today you get a speeding ticket for going 20, tomorrow for 30, now that's a crime, now that isn't, now what you said is right, now you get locked up, now you get free. If you don't know at all where you stand, what you're allowed, what you're not allowed, what is right, what is wrong, what is true, what is false, if there's total chaos, that's actually very scary. Now, I'm not advocating for dictatorship at all. Sometimes you need, so you have the children going all over the place, the adults, you bring them all together, you get them all to sit down, and now you just listen for a second, and I'm going to talk to you, and let's be quiet, and I explain why. You could say that's kind of like, let's get the order back. I even said that when I teach children. I say, hey guys, I love to, you know me as well, I love to joke, I love to have fun in the class. I think that's a good part because we also learn more. But then children will take advantage of that more than adults, and although adults can do it as well. And then it gets chaotic at one point. Then I really have to go, hey, get everyone's attention. Let's, I ask nicely 2 times. Now we're going to listen to me. So I'm going to be the little dictator for a few minutes and get them back into order, and then we shape it. So I'm a mini dictatorship for 3 minutes, and then we can relax again into it, and then you give the meaning behind it. Okay? So this is a very useful principle, and use it at your own discretion, and use it to whatever suits you. If you feel your road, your dharma is chaos, may the force be with you, right? So that's fine. It's not a judgment. If you feel and sometimes, and it's not either or in the sense that maybe there are periods of more chaos and periods. Like I said, I think very creative people probably go through these, because in chaos, everything is possible. It's also the quantum field of infinite possibilities, right? But you don't want that continuously, because in chaos, everything is possible. But you don't want everything to be possible forever, because then where do you focus on? Where do you go? What do you look at? What's the value? What isn't? But it is the realm. It's the quantum field, where the quantum field is infinite possibilities, and then you reach a possibility, and then you work that out or not. You go back to there. So you're even the most orderly people, if they want to not just keep the same job for 30 years doing exactly the same thing, will lean over towards chaos. Because believe it or not, we actually haven't talked about the ultimate quest. We've been talking about the quest, a quest. I at one point just decided to call it the ultimate quest. But there's the main theme, and the tools I'm giving are really just for all the small quests, the little quests, not that your situation is small. Like I said, it's no judgment. But what is a big quest, an ultimate quest for some is not for others, right? And vice versa. So I'll make that clear as we get closer towards the end. Okay. So anyway, I hope, just before I go to the next one, which you guys will recognize, but I hopefully give you a little insight to it. I hope that center, that's to see that as a tool for you to see, and it's in here as well, part of this, that center line comes back in many things. This is for a tool to see, am I going too chaotic? Is it destroying my life? Do I need a little bit more order? It's a pure personal decision, right? To reflect onto yourself, but it's good to be aware that that's how the brain works, that's how Buddhism thinks, that's how modern psychology thinks. They bring balance. So it's really about differentiation and then integrating again things in your life. That's what the brain actually does. A healthy brain can differentiate this for this and then integrate everything, and it works as a whole. So we as humans work that way too. We understand separate elements, but then we do have to try to bring it together. And it's very difficult. Obviously, the bigger the chaos, like I said, that's where the infinite, indeed, realm of possibilities are. So what to do, what to choose. And it doesn't mean, by the way, that anything that you're taking home today will dissolve whatever challenge you're facing right now. It won't. Was it Bruce Lee? I think, yeah, it was Bruce Lee that said, and I'm not saying to belittle any challenge, don't wish for lesser challenges. Give me the skills to take on any challenge. So I'm paraphrasing, something like that. So don't wish for easier life. Wish for the skills to deal with the more difficult life. And that doesn't mean like, oh, great. It's not like we welcome challenges like this or suffering. Of course not. But the whole idea is, like I said, you become more and more skilled at dealing with the quest, whatever quest it's on. To me, I found that was the golden nugget for me. It's not how do I exactly, because every situation is different. Who am I to say, well, your situation or what challenge you're facing? I can't. That's why I said I know your ultimate quest, and I don't. Because obviously you have your own personal battles based on your unique situation. No battle is the same. There is, however, like going on a quest, certain gear and shield and sword, and there's things you can take that will hopefully, if you apply them, will assist you on your battle. That's on your quest battle as well. That's the way I look at it. And so these, like I said, these insights really helped me. So it helped me to get myself balanced, ordered. I was obviously in the chaotic side, sometimes finding orderly things in my work. So I was in there as well. So getting that first, that's like not being on the wobbly raft. Because what can you do there? You can, wield your sword and all that. You're going to fall off the raft. So, and then I'm not going to go into too much details, although some of this might be new, but obviously for you, but for you guys, a lot of it, but part of it I do want to, the Sang Chuang, if you notice, there's a plus behind it. Because I'm going to give you 4 different ones that has nothing to do with the positions. Well, a little bit, but not really. It's the mental side. I want to give a mental side, Some of it I took home from Madeira, from Sifu Sergio, last trip, but I added 2 steps in between. So very brief though, you have soft internal martial arts that depend more on the water and air, wind elements, like Tai Chi, and then you have hard external styles like boxing, Muay Thai, are more earth and fire. Keep it simple, right? So hard, and at one point the wood and wind you say could get lost because people fight in their same weight classes. So the wood and wind is more the absorbing, defensive. I'm looking more at him because I think you guys know this. You know it from my trial lesson as well, right? And of course, once again, this is a spectrum. So it's not like everything's only earth and fire and everything's only. So we combine the elements and they have a mental, emotional, and physical side. So the wood and wind is more the relaxed, responsive, calm, giving with, stepping aside, compassion, love, caring, giving. Now that might sound like we're going to the negative now when we go to earth and fire. Not necessarily, they both have polarity. It's not good or bad, but negative and positive. So earth can be very grounded, but it can also be stubborn, right? Like I said, I've mastered myself, or I know everything. Don't tell me what to do. So stubbornness is a challenging one. It's better to be more humble. This is from psychology. So this is also another very useful tool. It comes from modern psychology. I don't know how far it goes back. It's referred to, you can look it up as the emotional triad. Very popular, people use it as well. I think it's one of the strong things that Tony Robbins used, for example. So this is, okay, maybe it's clear to a certain degree. So what you want when you confront situation, this is how they're linked, right? That's why it's not just this, it's not just that, it's not just that. You start linking the elements, you start linking this San Shuang training, and then you start understanding when are you in optimal state of mind, which I think everyone would agree. When you make an important decision, do you want to be in the least optimal state of mind or the most optimal state of mind? That's a rhetorical question. So the language we use, don't underestimate the power of the word. Also comes back in all religions, of course, the word. We often are careless with our choice of words. This is a disaster when you miss the bus, right? I'm a complete failure, right? I'm bad. All these words. I don't want to go into, there's plenty. We can think of these negative words. That's the gray wolf, white wolf story, right? That I tell to the children, right? The grandfather tells the grandson, very short. Yes, there's a white wolf. Yes, gray wolf. The white wolf speaks in positive words. Gray wolf speaks in negative words. Which wolf? Right.
Yeah, what I follow.
Good. Which wolf is the one that survives? Is the one you feed. Yeah. The other one loses its power. So it's not a judgment. You feed those words, they grow, they increase in power. Only one can rent the space at one time in your head. So you keep one and you kick out the rest. So the language you use is important. Are you using empowering words? Are the words, is your word choice bringing you closer? Do you want to be a further away? Simple as that. It's your word choice. Is it empowering you or disempowering you? I'm not saying you should never have an honest talk with yourself. You can do better or something like that. But even there, be careful. I could have done things differently. I'm going to do better next time. Instead of, that was a disaster, you're a complete failure, what an idiot. How often do we talk like this? Obviously, your culture, your background, your upbringing, your personality traits, there's so many factors that contribute how you stand in life. And it's no judgment once again. Sometimes we just brought up a certain way, end up in a certain culture, live in a certain place. As a child, don't get to go to Kung Fu. Has it been beneficial to Eros? How long has he been training here? It's a little testimonials here. I gotta get the camera.
8?
And how great? Yeah, 8 years. 8 years. Yeah. I'm not saying Kung Fu's the only, but we like to grab from. Yeah. Well, I hope so. Yeah. Who feels the benefit of the mental? Oh, great.
Sifu Paul. That's what I say. Every time I close that door, I came in. It's a switch of
That's
great.
true, actually.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, that's the beauty, I think, of doing the whole idea of doing a martial art too, because we're in motion. If you just do these things like we're doing now, that's why I hope you guys start using these things that we're talking about, right? It's all theory. When trial lessons come here, I actually say, don't believe anything I'm saying. Please don't. Just form your own opinion, see what resonates, absorb what you need, discard what you don't. But all I ask is you have an open mind, try out some things, not just for a day, yeah? Yeah, I did Kung Fu. It's nothing. It's worthless. How long did you do it? I did 2 lessons. Right? I can't cook. I bought the tomatoes, I brought the garlic, and it all burned. Italian food's terrible. Anyway, so we got to put things into practice.